asking the question that had been hovering over the proceedings like a shadow. If these safeguards were in place, if executives and subordinates were both doing their jobs, why had Namcor continued to supply fuel to Enercon when the company's debt had already crossed the $100 million mark?
That's a good question though. If somebody owes you 100 million, why supply to them again, bro? Nez gang, bro. The story keeps becoming deep, bro. The story is getting deep, and somebody made a whole series on it, bro. These people are definitely eating money. All I can say, bro. And I think you see now it's the CEO, executive, Namibian executive got caught in a massive corruption. I don't know which executive this is, bro. I don't know if it's the lady that was in charge of Namco or something, bro. But it's deep, bro. It's deep. So let's play the video, bro. The guy made a whole series on it, bro. 480 million corruption store. Yo, it's deep, bro. It's deep.
Jennifer Hamukwaya had built her career like a fortress. Brick by brick, title by title, she had climbed the neat, well-lit corridors of respectability. A chartered accountant trained under Deloitte with degrees from Namibia and South Africa.
Why is it always the chartered accountants, bro? It's because they're the ones that see the money. Oh.
Her resume spoke of order, precision, and an almost stubborn adherence to structure. But the fortress may have had cracks invisible to the naked eye. This is the story of her alleged involvement in a syndicate that allegedly defrauded the National Petroleum Corporation of Namibia of about 480 million Namibian dollars.
Hey, bro, these guys are eating money, bro. I don't know how they managed with this whole thing, bro, but yo, it's deep.
The morning of Jennifer Hamakwaya's arrest began in a meeting room at the Namibia Qualifications
Is she this skinny? Yo.
In July of 2025. She was mid-discussion, a page of notes in front of her, when her phone rang. On the other end, news. Cornelius Cedric Willemser had been arrested.
Yo, bro, what do you do when you see your closest friends are being arrested, bro? I think the first thing I'll try and do is flee, because I know there's one guy that disappeared, bro. I don't know where that guy went, bro, but that guy I think is somewhere in Angola. He's right here, bro. So yeah.
She called former Namcor managing director Emmanuel Malunga to confirm. At first, he said no. Then, 30 minutes later, his voice returned to her through the line. Yes, Willemser had been taken. She sat there, back in her chair, the air in the room suddenly heavy. Malunga's voice over the phone was cautious, almost strained. There were warrants for ex-Namcor executives, and she could be one of them to be arrested next. She pulled her supervisor aside, into a smaller room, to confess what she had heard. But before she could finish, a secretary arrived with a message.
Yo, it's crazy, man. It's crazy. I don't even know what the families are thinking now. Especially if you know you took the money, bro. What will your kids look at you? How will they even look at you? How will your husband look at you?
That cut the air like a knife. The police were here, looking for her. The walk to the car park was deliberate, almost ceremonial. Beside her, the managing director of the NQA and her supervisor kept pace. In the open daylight, Inspector Anna of the Namibian police introduced herself and told her she was under arrest for corruption, fraud, and money laundering linked to Namcor. Somewhere in the back of her mind, she thought of the 3 children she had left at home. A pair of boys.
That's the crazy part, bro. What will your kids do? What will your kids say? How will they be treated at school and stuff like that, knowing their parents were arrested or your mom has been arrested because of corruption, bro?
Boys aged 10 and 13, and a 5-year-old girl, and the nanny who had promised to watch over them. The accusations painted a picture far removed from the polished professional profile. The state alleged that she had received hundreds of thousands into an account belonging
Hey yo, why is my quality like that? Was it the video? Okay, mine is in 1080, bro.
to Panduleni Farming CC, a business tied to her husband. The timing, investigators said, was no coincidence. Days after she approved a purchase order for Orongo Petroleum, a company already implicated in credit fraud, $500,000 Namibian appeared in Panduleni Farming's account. Weeks later, $643,000 went toward their mortgage. The court heard of payments from businessman Peter Elindi, millions flowing from his company Enercon to both Hamakwaya and Willemse, allegedly to secure the purchase of 9 service stations.
Bro, these guys don't look like they have money, bro. That's the crazy part, bro. They're so disguised. Like, you won't think these guys have money, bro. But the deals they're making aside, the deals they're making, they are very big, bro.
By Namcor. More millions, the state claimed, passed under the table to keep fuel flowing to Enercon and Orongo Petroleum without following procedure. Between August 2022 and May 2023, they said, fuel worth $277 million Namibian had moved under these arrangements. Hamakwaya's defense was precise, almost surgical in its delivery. She sat upright, eyes steady, answering each question as if the words had been measured beforehand.
Is this the same person or is it just me? Because she looks completely different.
She told the court that her sole motivation had been to safeguard Namcor's financial position, that her actions were deliberate steps taken to ensure the company's interests were protected. In her account, there was no hint of personal gain, no desire to enrich herself at the expense of the organization she had served for years. She explained that her access to Enercon's bank account was not part of some covert arrangement, months in the making, as the state alleged, but a procedural necessity that came into play only when the supply agreement between Namcor and Enercon became effective in March 2022.
So she basically didn't steal money yet, or am I getting this wrong?
On that very day, she became a joint signatory. Not before, not after. Her reasoning was clear. The Ministry of Defense was to pay Enercon for fuel under the agreement, and those funds had to be transferred without delay or diversion to Namcor. Her presence on the account was, in her telling, another layer of control, a failsafe to make sure every cent went where it was intended. It was a defense that drew on her professional identity. She painted herself as the vigilant custodian of corporate money, someone whose duty was defined by internal controls and financial discipline. She spoke of systems, checks, and authorizations, those invisible levers that keep large transactions from slipping into shadow. Every action, she insisted, had been rooted in procedure. But when former managing director Emmanuel Malunga took the stand, his account...
Bro, this bro was too greedy, bro. This guy was just too greedy. It's crazy, man, it's crazy.
...pushed the responsibility elsewhere. He claimed it was never his role to watch over those funds directly. That duty, he said, belonged to his subordinates, the executives under him who were tasked with overseeing the day-to-day management of accounts and client transactions. He implied that Hamakwaya's role, while important, existed within a wider framework where she was one of several hands meant to keep the machine running. The state, however, was not content to leave it at that. They pressed the point almost to the edge of repetition, asking the question that had been hovering over the proceedings like a shadow. If these safeguards were in place, if executives and subordinates were both doing their jobs, why had Namcor continued to supply fuel to Enercon when the company's debt had already crossed the $100 million mark?
That's a good question, though. If somebody owes you $100 million, why supply to them again, bro?
How could such a massive liability exist when the credit limit was a mere $15 million? The prosecution suggested that what Hamakwaya described as protection of Namcor's interests looked very different when seen in light of the company's credit policies. Continuing to supply fuel under those circumstances, they argued, was not protection at all. It was exposure, a risk that defied logic unless there were motives beyond standard business practice. The decision to extend supply despite the arrears, they hinted, could only be explained by relationships and understandings that were not documented in official agreements. In the courtroom, that gap between her version and theirs was not just a matter of interpretation, it was the battleground. Hamaquaya's defense relied on the idea that her role began at a single, fixed point in time, tied to the signing of the agreement, and that everything she did thereafter was anchored in process. The state's narrative was broader, stretching the timeline backwards, pulling in documents and resolutions that suggested her access to the Enecon account predated the agreement by months. To them, this was not a coincidence, but a sign that she had been positioned long before the deal was formalized, ready to act in ways that would later benefit certain parties.
Your source is like a whole industry plan, if I should say, bro. Industry plan. She's an industry plan. Bro. Nah, this is crazy, man.
Each side spoke as if the truth was self-evident. But in the silence after the exchanges, the tension lingered. Whether Hamaquaya's actions were the work of a cautious guardian of Namcor's funds, or the calculated moves of someone already entangled in a web of obligations that had nothing to do with protecting the company's interests. A forensic audit by PwC
Bro.
Namibia unearthed irregularities, credit guarantees cancelled, limits ignored, payments routed through unexpected channels. Investigators claimed Hamaquaya had been given access to Enecon's bank account 5 months before any agreement with Namcor even existed. There was no record of Namcor authorizing her role. When asked why she cancelled a $5 million credit guarantee from Enecon in November 2021, she said there was something wrong with it. Without the guarantee, Enecon's credit limit dropped to zero, meaning only cash sales were possible. But that policy, like so many others in this case, dissolved in practice. To understand why this matters, it helps to unpack the mechanics behind a cash-only policy. In its simplest form, a cash-only policy means that a client must pay upfront before receiving goods or services.
Bro, we all know that, bro. I'm gonna skip because it's a long video, bro.
So, once the $5 million credit guarantee vanished, the rules were clear. Enecon's credit limit stood at zero. In that world, the game was supposed to be simple. No cash, no fuel.
Yo, that's so smart though.
But the paperwork and the reality began to drift apart. Tankers rolled, pumps flowed, and fuel worth hundreds of millions left Namcor's control without the bank balance to justify it. In theory, a cash-only policy is a padlock. But here, the padlock wasn't broken, it was opened, willingly. The state says Enecon and Erongo Petroleum received the keys, bypassing the barrier entirely. What they got was not a trickle. Between August 2022 and May 2023, the value of the fuel supplied without upfront payment swelled to 277 million Namibian dollars. And in return?
Bro. That guy is, yo, bro, that amount is not small, bro. It's not a small amount at all, bro. It's big. That's a massive amount. 200 and something million, bro. Sheesh.
The prosecution points to payments. $500,000 here, 600,000 there, alleged to have landed in accounts tied to Namcor executives or their families. The mathematics of it borders on absurd. Vast rivers of fuel, worth more than $250 million, traded away for what, in corporate terms, was pocket change. This is the kind of equation that draws forensic auditors like moths to a flame. Enormous assets flowing out, minimal consideration flowing in, and a trail of approvals that defy the stated policies of the organization. It is also where the story tilts from negligence into something more calculated. If the state's theory holds, this was not a mistake. It was an arrangement. The entities receiving the fuel walked away with the kind of margin you cannot achieve in any honest market. The gap between the bribe and the benefit so wide it swallows reason whole. In the shadows of boardrooms and loading bays, this gap is the beating heart of the case. A deal where the house did not just lose, it handed over the keys, the safe, and the vault, asking for little more in return than a token to mark the occasion. That imbalance, that sheer disproportion between what was given and what was received, is what makes the allegations so staggering. It is, in its own way, the most damning number of them all.
Bro, what's her name again, bro? What's her name again? Forgot her name now. Oh, Jennifer. I wanna see if I can find this on. I wanna see if I can find this on Instagram, bro. Let's just see here, bro. Not YouTube. Instagram. Instagram, bro. Is this her? Is this her, yo? I have no idea, bro. I have no idea. Let me just search that again. Bro. Nah, I think this is her, bro. So yeah, that is crazy, yo. That is literally crazy to me, bro. The fact that all this is happening, bro, and the guys are enjoying themselves, man. You know, balling.
CC, owned by Victor Malema. By March, they were signing an exclusive supply deal with Namcor without a valid guarantee in place. The collateral? Government purchase orders from the Ministry of Defense. By May, Namcor was already planning to acquire Enercon's fuel infrastructure for over $53 million. The board was never consulted. The investigation widened. The Anti-Corruption Commission said this was no isolated breach. It was a network. Alongside Hamaquaya and Willems were names like...
Okay, this is getting boring, bro. I want to see what the NBC News says, bro. NBC News Namibia. I wonder what they're saying about this whole thing, bro. You should definitely have posted something about this and they definitely have posted these clips of the corruption these days, bro. Today, look at how they post. Yo, 33 minutes, 29 minutes. This is crazy, man. It's crazy. But I'm just looking for specific kind of videos, like the cases and yeah. I don't see nothing though. Let's go on their lives. Miss Namibia, nah. What's the court cases, man? Where's the court cases? And anyways, yo, this is where I'm ending the video. This is where I'm ending the video, bro. Subscribe if you're new. Thank you guys for watching, bro. For subscribing as well, bro. Welcome to the Nez gang. And yeah, subscribe. See you on the next.